Welcome to the ABQ Accent, where catalysts, innovators, and risk takers share what their accent is on their work. Like a spoken accent, we all have an inflection or emphasis on where we put our energy. Join us to learn how these folks are putting their accents to work, building their vision of the future, and how you can get involved. Hi everyone, welcome to the ABQ Accent. I'm Mariah Harrison. I'm here with Benjamin Tobias from C&M. Welcome.
Thank you. Hi, I'm happy to be here.
Good, me too. I really only met you, a week and a half ago in person?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. That is testament to how excited I am about you and your work. I really wanted to have you on because I think that what I did learn just that day was energizing, and I want to know more about this person who's so passionate about his community.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll give you some time to do some more background info. I'm going to give a brief bio and then we'll go from there.
Okay, wonderful.
Okay. First and foremost, what are your pronouns?
He, him, they, them.
Great. I am she, her.
Great.
So Benjamin Tobias is the manager of student basic needs at Central New Mexico Community College. To some people, they might not quite understand what that means. I want to dive into it.
Yeah.
Okay. I really believe that you have a sense of, we've talked briefly about the fact that you have a sense of the student pulse, the community needs over there. And I'm excited about your passion for your work. So a little bit about Benjamin. He's lived in Albuquerque for 16 years. A graduate of both C&M and UNM, he's been involved with many local arts community organizations. He was a Montessori teacher for 10 years. I was a Montessori kid.
Oh, great.
Before transitioning to his current role at C&M, Benjamin runs C&M's 3 food pantries, started a basic needs distribution program for the C&M community to receive the items they need to continue achieving success within higher education. No small feat. I want to learn more about all of this.
Yeah.
I also want to note that this isn't this is your full-time job, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
But as an engaged community member, you are also starting your master's in educational psychology, awesome, at UNM, on the Native American Advisory Council, on the Cottonwood Gulch Expeditions Board, exhibiting soon at the Harwood.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And living downtown with your 9-year-old son and enjoying it.
Yeah, I'm loving it. Yeah, I'm grateful every day.
Awesome. So tell me more about what makes you grateful these days.
Yeah, well, I guess a little bit about myself too, right?
Yes, please.
So yeah, I'm originally from Houston. I think you said that. I've been here for about 16 years. Before that, I was living in Spain for 2 years, teaching English as a second language to students, and in Barcelona.
I'm not jealous at all.
Yeah, it's okay. I actually have a friend who's there right now, and I'm like, oh my God, please send me all the pictures.
Yeah.
I really a non-traditional student. I kind of finished high school in 03 and kind of did some work here and there. And then my partner at the time was like, let's move to Spain. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. I'm not really, doing anything. Went to Spain for 2 years, came here, really found my passion for art history there. Being around the Gothic medieval art and architecture was really exciting for me. And I'd never been abroad. I will say also I'm the first person in my family to graduate from college and to go abroad and travel out of the country like that.
First time.
Yeah, for sure. And we were definitely lower middle class growing up, and we still are, my family. And I have 2 siblings as well who are older. But yeah, we came here, and my ex at the time wanted to get her master's. And so I was like, I can go anywhere to get my undergraduate degree. And came here, went to C&M, and then went to UNM as well. So it took me about 13 years to get my undergraduate degree. And so I love telling people there is no time frame for that. You can take as much time as you need, and if it's the right thing for you, you can do it, and that's okay. Yeah. It'll take as much time.
They're not. The university's not really going anywhere.
Yeah, exactly, right. And so it's always going to be there mostly. But yeah, after doing that, I arrived in Albuquerque, not knowing anything about it, and just kind of came here, really enjoy it, and got really plugged into the community here. I will say the community, that's one of the strengths I know about Albuquerque is we have a really strong community network here. Yeah. Something that I've seen is that, if you're able to come to the table and sit and listen and be a participant that way, rather than coming in and trying to tell people what to do, then it'll really, you'll really connect with that community and start to engage with them in ways. And so I, did a lot of the art, like you said, nonprofit sector here for a while, doing things, and then got plugged into Montessori. Actually, I learned how to do fractions as a 20-something-year-old in a Montessori classroom. Yeah. And so that really clicked for me and made me want to do Montessori. And I was like, I have to be part of this. And so the Montessori philosophy, as well as my background, just kind of growing up, not having, we have things, but we didn't have lots of things, of course. And so, and I went to private school. My family did the best they could. So I was in private school my whole life through financial aid or grandparents helping to pay for that. So seeing other or friends and community members at my school, wreck a Hummer and then get a Mercedes the next day was really kind of eye-opening for me to be like, whoa, I'm not these kind of people, but we also, it's a lot of perspective for sure. But to be able to say, like, I want to, make sure that I see myself in everywhere and other people like me, we're represented, because that's not what I saw at that school all the time. So living here, Montessori, I think you said you're a Montessori kid. So, I approach my classroom in a very community-oriented way. I know that for a long time, traditions of community have been here in Albuquerque before colonization, and they're still here. But, I tell my students, the biggest thing that I know about community is that, if we're lacking something and somebody takes something or steals something, it's not because they're a bad person inherently. They just need resources, and that's the only way they can get them. So typically what we would do is we would say, well, what do you need? And why did you take it from me? Oh, it's okay. You needed bread? Oh, let me give you some bread so you don't have to take it from me anymore. Or let me give you my pencil, or give you a pencil so you don't have to take my pencil next time. And just kind of instilling that community sense for students was really something that spoke to me, and I really appreciated the Montessori philosophy for that reason. Another thing that kind of brings me to the work that I do now is like the fundamental needs chart. And I don't know if you remember that from Montessori. It's basically like a Maslow's hierarchy of needs chart, but it's in a more, Montessori-esque, like really big graphic image that's really beautiful. But it says that, it says these are the basic needs that we have. And if we can get these basic needs met, then we can do anything or most things. And that's something as well with travel that I was able to also see was that, and living abroad in other places, was that, wow, we're all the same. We're humans, and everybody needs food, shelter, security, safety, and then those are the basic things we need, and that's what everybody needs, no matter where you go. And so, seeing that out in the world and just realizing that that's what we need to succeed, really kind of inspires the work that I do. Is just I want to make sure that students at C&M are able to succeed, and I know that it's just tough to exist right now, and so existing in general is tough. And if we can at C&M give them some of those basic needs that they have or that they're needing, then we can take something off their plate a little bit to help them go forward and continue on their education.
Humaning is hard.
Yeah, it is. It is really hard.
Today.
It is, yeah. And it's always been that way, for a long time, I think. And so, and again, we used to have stronger community connections, I know, before, capitalism, colonization, things like that. We were a strong unit, and, we all rise together when we help each other, right? And so, knowing that, it's like you said, it is tough to exist, and getting back to some ways of that is really helpful.
Well, and keeping that perspective in mind as we move forward is that we're going to continue to staying together keeps us all healthy and not necessarily wealthy, because that's not what we're looking for, but unless it's a wealth of agency and actual physical health and community mind, all of that can keep our community tight, and it's like a cycle.
Yeah,
when
exactly.
We're all taking care of each other, then everything else kind of starts to fall into place too. I'd like to think.
Yeah, I'd like to think as well, and it feels that way sometimes though when I see students, and I see them succeed, and I see them continue on graduating or coming back and, are talking to me and telling me, oh, this really helped me this week. And I could feed my brother too with this, or my, my son or my child or whatever it is. And so, yeah, you see the connection sometimes forming that way.
And the gratitude.
Yeah.
And because they'll come back to support the work.
Definitely, yeah. Right? I have students who have utilized Pantry who also volunteer at Pantry because the same reason. They're like, I get to use this service and I want to make sure other people can use it. And it's such a friendly, inviting space that you create here, and I want to be part of that to get people to also come here and understand that. Because that's also the other issue is stigma. There's so much stigma around needing help and asking for help. And so one of the things that we strive to do at C&M and our food pantries is to make it a really fun, welcoming, inviting place. And that's what I hear a lot from students is, hey, you guys are really friendly here, and I really appreciate coming here, and y'all are always smiling and engaged and welcoming. So
goes a long way.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Because it's already hard, like we said, to exist, and having to go and stand in the line and feel like you're a burden or you're, you're less than because you're using the service. That's not what we want people to feel. Even
if you're around other people in similar circumstances.
Exactly.
The stigma is learned. And
yes.
So two things. I wonder if that position was made for you, or if you sort of built it up of what it was. And talk to me about how you do build that community. What are the tangible things that you put into that coordination and facilitation to make it happen?
Yeah. Well, the position existed before I got there, and there was somebody before me actually, but I think their role was a little more duty heavy. They had more duties for sure. Once they left, they had to reevaluate the role and say, hey, that might have been too much for this one person to take on, because I think they were doing case management as well. and resource gathering and the food pantry management. So they kind of pared it down.
Okay.
So my role, I pretty much do food pantry management, the distribution program. I do make community connections as well, and just other office clerical things. But yeah, I feel like I really lucked out. Like I said, I'm really grateful. I don't think, I know definitely things that I've done in my life have led me to this.
Yeah.
And I'd like to think that the role was created for me and that I fit really well in this role because I think I do.
In this time in your life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for what I'm doing right now. Yeah. But tangible things that we do, at our main campus pantry, because we have, like I said, we have three, but actually we're opening another one next week at the Montoya campus.
Oh, nice. You did mention that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was kind of in the
Nice.
works. And so we're finally doing it. And by next week on Thursday, it'll be our first Montoya campus. I'm really excited about that because to me, that shows that C&M is in every quadrant of the city. We're in, our main campus has one, South Valley has one, West Side has one, Montoya campus has one. And I have plans for the Rio Rancho campus to also get some type of food source as well. It may not look exactly like our current pantries that we have, but it'll be some type of resource for them.
Right.
And they do have a snack shack. I don't know if I talked about those either, but we give free snacks as well to students because we also understand that most places have little access to food in general. And so just having something on campus for them to grab for free is really helpful.
That's really helpful. Coming and going.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, those of
Yeah.
us that might not be great at food prep just yet, or even have the ability to do food prep.
Yeah, exactly that too. Yeah, some spaces they don't even have. We in distribution we did give out like hot plates and pots and pans sometimes because we understand the same thing. It's not always accessible for people or they don't have access to a stove or a way to make food. So, giving them that resource is really valuable for them. But at our main campus, tangible ways that we build community. I like to walk around. I like to be engaged with the community. So I make it a point to walk around and talk to students and engage with them and remind them that we have a food pantry there. Whenever we have excess food left over, which sometimes we do because we get a lot of donations from Roadrunner Food Bank and we have other places that we get food from. But we'll often have some food left over. And so I walk around campus with a cart handing out food to students. And I love to see that because I've had multiple students tell me, every time I see you, you're giving me something free and that's something that I need. And I'm like, yeah, that's why I'm here. Yeah, exactly. Like that guy, I know who you are. And they stop me and like, oh, hey, what do you have today? And I'm like, oh, I have, strawberries or whatever it is, tomatoes or things. And sometimes it's really weird. I'll have like carts full of garlic and I'm like, does anybody need garlic? And they're like, what?
I
And I'm like,
know I needed that today.
yeah. But then, they say what in a really questioning way. And I'm like, oh, it's from the food pantry. Oh yeah, let me have some garlic, please. And they'll take, 5 or 6 heads of garlic. And they're really grateful for that too. So just being out in the community as much as I can and showing them like, hey, like, again, this is a space for you. Please utilize it. And so there's that. During pantry, our lines get pretty long. At our main campus, we see about 120, 100 and so students every Wednesday at our main campus. So there is a wait time for sure. And so while they're in line, again, another thing is like we're all doing our best and we're all just existing and we're all trying our best. We're maybe running from class to come to food pantry because we're really into that food, or we're about to go to work, so we have to really make it quick, but we haven't had food yet and we're waiting in line and it's really tough. So we always hand out snacks while they're in line and water or whatever. If we have drinks, we hand drinks out too, but for sure snacks are always given to students. So I'll walk up and down the line, or the volunteers as well will walk up and down the line and talk to people, engage, give them snacks and say, how are you doing? What's going on? Yeah, it's good to see you again. So things like that. Really, I think, to me, we can send out so many messages and we can send out so many emails and text messages to people, but that it really isn't, it's not as engaging as face-to-face contact where you can say, hey, I know that person or I've seen you. And I love that, again, because I do walk around campus and people who I know utilize food pantry. I'm like, oh, hey, I'll see you tomorrow, right? Or you coming tomorrow? Or don't forget about that, and oh, yeah, I'll be there. Thank you for telling me again. Or it's good to see you. And I just love, like I said, love being out and being out in the community. So I really just try to make organic, personable approaches to people, letting them know. Yeah.
And what's your support staff look like? What is your...
So right now we do have volunteers that sign up. We have last semester we had really good consistent volunteers for our afternoon. That's the best part. I understand that too. So we have 2 volunteer time slots. We have, on Wednesdays in the morning we get our shipments in of food, and so we have to unpack those things and kind of restock our shelves, and that's a lot more like heavy lifting and loading and unloading, not really student interaction. So I understand when people are like, I don't really want to do that as much because it's not as fun, but we do get a lot of people who want to volunteer for the afternoon shifts, which is that's the interaction with the community and the students, and that's handing out food physically to students and being there. So I do have that. We also have some other support staff. Our department's quite small. We're not, so I'm in the wellness department. We're fairly new, maybe 3 or 4 years we've been around. And our department maybe has 5 or 6 people in it. And we have 2 case managers, so they're always doing case management work. We have our director, and we have an outreach coordinator as well. who works with us. And so they all kind of step in when they can and help. But it is a lot of reliance on volunteers and just C&M's student community and staff community to kind of, come in and help when we need that. So, yeah.
Well, I really love it. I just want to come visit to get to know people.
Yeah, please do.
And maybe volunteer.
You're welcome. Yeah, you're totally welcome to do that.
Yeah. What's the mechanism to sign up to volunteer?
Yeah, so you would go to our C&M website, and if you go to there and in the search bar, you type in food pantry, it'll bring our food pantry page up. On that page, it'll show you, do you want to volunteer or volunteer opportunities? And you'll click on that link, and it'll bring you to like a Calendly where you can sign up.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and again, you and please anybody else who is listening to this podcast who wants to come and hang out and volunteer and do that, we would love that too.
Yeah, we need heavy lifters. We need social people. We need both.
We do. Yeah, I know. Everybody has a role. Everybody has a purpose for sure. And that's
Well, and so on the Wednesday thing, and you said you get food from Roadrunner.
Yes.
See if I can do this question clearly. Roadrunner is being challenged right now because their lack of federal funding, as are food banks across the nation.
Yes, totally.
I wonder who else is providing you some resources, what other resources you provide to your students, either during Wednesdays or overall during the week. And maybe that could lead into what kind of challenges you're seeing with your partners.
Yeah, no, that's really true. You're right. And that's a real thing that's happening. I know. We've been fortunate enough that nothing so far has been affected with us for Roadrunner Food Bank. But I do know. Yeah, I know. Yes, please. I say that now, and then who knows? Next week we'll say it's okay. I know. But we're. They're really a great organization, and I'm so glad that we get to get food from them. And the food that we get is really wonderful. And we got our shipment today. It's usually, they understand. Again, we report every month the numbers that we have, and typically in a month, unique students that come to visit is about 300 or so.
Wow.
Again, on that same, every week it's like 100 and something, but new students or unique students is about 300 or so. So, given that number, and that's at all 3 food pantries, not just the main campus.
Yeah.
And again, we're going to grow because of the 4th campus now. But yeah, nothing so far luckily has changed with the amount of food that we've been getting from Roadrunner Food Bank. So we have food from them that we get. We do have some institutional funds that we use as well to gather food from, to supplement food. So we end up going to like a wholesale distribution like Sam's or Costco, one of those places to grab extra items that we need.
Like seasonal stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Or, staples, like maybe they don't always give us, rice or pasta from Roadrunner Food Bank, so we'll go and buy that so that we make sure we have those kinds of items for students.
Does it tend to be a well-rounded box, or what do you try to fill it with, if I may interject?
Oh yeah, no, that's okay. Well, actually, so one of the things too that I really appreciate about our food pantry is, again, a Montessori philosophy is autonomy and your own kind of agency. Exactly. So they get to choose. So it's not just a box they get. So the students sign in, they get in line, they get a paper bag, they walk through our pantry. Everything has like a shelf that has limits on it, how many to take from that shelf. And so they're allowed to say, maybe it's on the dry goods, it's two dry goods. And so they can choose, do I want 2 pastas or do I want 2 rices or 1 rice, 1 pasta? Once they kind of gather all the items they want, they walk down the line. And we also work with Mogro, which is a, them. Yeah, okay, great.
Yeah.
Like a produce, local produce as much as they can, but also sourcing from other places. But they do really beautiful produce bags. And we get about, again, 150 of those produce bags every week. Yeah, I know. They're lovely people, and the produce they get is so good and so fresh. I've had students tell me that, like, I haven't had food this fresh in a long time, or this tastes like my grandmother's garden, or, and those things too, the memories, it's so nice to hear the students say those things. I have a story about that too at some point I can hopefully tell. It's a really short one, but yeah, we get food from Mogro produce. So they'll walk down the line and they'll get the items they need. And then at the end, they get a bag of produce. But again, Roadrunner Food Bank also gives us produce too. So we often can give them more extra produce that, maybe they didn't have. And Roadrunner will also give us sometimes a mix of things. Like maybe they'll give us like ground beef or eggs or butter or things. And so we're also able to hand those out to students as well. But we do have, like I said, we have institutional funds. At C&M, we have a Feeding Families Fund that students and can faculty and staff can choose to put a little bit of their money into that fund if they'd like to.
Cool.
We had a grant actually from the city of Albuquerque for a little while, but we just spent through it in December. We were meant to spend through it in December. And we did, and it was for the food pantry. And so we were able to gather a lot of surplus food at the food pantry. We had some storage area to store it in, and now we're actually almost finished with that stored food. But again, we're still in a good position, and we're always again looking for grants or donations. I always hesitate to ask for food donations just because sometimes we get a hodgepodge of things, and it's kind of like, oh, we really can't put this on the shelf, or maybe it's expired. But would probably still never say no to things like that if I could get it.
Do you have a wish list?
Actually, I have a basic needs wish list.
Okay.
That's on our website too.
Okay.
That's on our wellness website, I believe.
Okay.
But there is a wish list for that kind of stuff, because again, that stuff is more, of course, shelf-stable, because it's like toilet paper, feminine hygiene products or menstruation products. I'm sorry, and just things like that really won't go bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I'm sorry. The rest of your question.
Well, it was it's great that we're not seeing big challenges for
Yes.
you directly with Roadrunner, but maybe in the world of food service, or not food service, but food systems and.
Yeah, no, I will say, and it's truthful that, like CNM is the largest community college in New Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
So, we do have more resources available to us, because I've spoken to other community colleges. That was the one thing I did immediately when I first got into this role.
Yeah.
Was, hey, let me check and see, because it's not just us who's doing this. I can't say, oh, we're the only ones. We're not. And it's lovely that we're not the only ones. And that's the other thing. It's a lovely and great community of other food pantries and colleges, community colleges, who are doing this work, who are really, we're in it together. There's no competition. And I love that, because it's like, I just want to help you because you're helping students just like I am. Yeah. So I spoke to so many other community colleges in the area. And honestly, they're working on a smaller budget than we are, just because they're a smaller college, but they're doing it. And, from what I've talked to them recently too, we're aware, and we know that things are going to the prices are going to raise up, tariffs and things like that. And just in general, like what's going on with, like you said, just the current administration shutting programs down and limiting resources and funds. So again, that basic needs consortium that we'll talk about later, we've had meetings like that where we're like, ooh, what are our plans? What are we thinking of? But, it seems so far right now, no one's really super in a deficit yet. Okay. Hopefully not soon at all, or at all ever.
Or ever.
Yeah, but definitely, it is on our thoughts, and we are as a collective thinking, what are we going to do if this does really happen in a tremendous way, because we want to make sure that our students get what they need. That's our biggest concern for sure.
Well, let me give you the opportunity to tell the story about the student that you wanted to tell.
Oh, yeah.
And then I'd love to get more into the consortium.
Yeah, no, definitely. Again, it's a really short story. It just really, it's one of those things, we're giving food, and food is so wonderful on so many levels. It's not just nourishing for your body, it's nourishing for your soul and for your, your well-being, everything, right? It really is. It's a tangible, like, memories, and it's connected to those things. And so we had this student, Roadrunner Food Bank gave us chayote, which I don't know if y'all know, it's like this kind of like a green looking thing. It's almost like jicama in a way. It kind of absorbs the flavor of whatever you put it in. People put it in soups usually. It's a very Latin American thing. I think it might be other places too, but I know Latin America uses it.
I wonder where they got it.
Yeah, I don't know. We just had boxes of it, and it was the best thing. And again, that's the joy of it sometimes. It's like, what are we going to get today? And they tell us, but sometimes it just says like miscellaneous produce. And you're like, what is this? And then it's like, oh, it's kiwis, or it's, cherries, or it's, and so it's really cool. And then students too, they're like, what? Do we have these? I was like, yeah, come get some today. Okay. But this student, he had gone through the line, and, we were telling people too in the best way we could, because most people came up to us and like, what is that?
I don't know how to use it.
Yeah, I don't know how to use it. Exactly. Yeah. And so we're like, oh, that's chayote, and then the student, he's from Latin America, and he definitely was like, oh, he got so excited. Yeah, he was like, his eyes got big, and he was like, whoa, you have this here? And we're like, yeah, and he was like, oh my God, it's so exciting. And that was a student, he was like, I remember, like, because he was a foreign exchange student as well. He was a national student. He was here just for CNM college, and he was going to go back eventually. Okay. And so he was like, well, I haven't had this in a long time, and my grandmother used to make this every day for me when I was down, and they're living with her, and, this just like really makes me feel like I'm home again. And I haven't had this, and I can't find this anywhere right now. I've been looking, and it's really tough, but, to have this memory and to have this connection to my home was like really, he was so excited about it, and he was really happy, and it was just so much joy for him to see that. And again, it was that moment for me too, where it's like, it's not just food we're giving people. It's not just like, oh, hey, you need this because you need to survive, and yes, of course you do. Yeah. But it's also like feelings and emotions and care, and it's we take care of you. Yeah. We're trying our best to do that.
I really appreciate you sharing that. And as I was thinking, there was at least 300 of those a month.
Yeah,
if I didn't already mention that.
Yeah.
And so in understanding the population that you're working with, do you utilize those stories? Do you capture those stories in other ways? And maybe this is a good time to transition into giving us a brief description of the consortium. Yeah. The New Mexico, you got to do this for me.
Yeah, that's good.
The New Mexico Basic Needs Project
is
a consortium of
the New Mexico colleges and the higher education colleges here in New Mexico. So UNM is spearheading that project. And so for your first question, data-wise, we really collect data on like household size, just tangible things and that we need, again, like how old are you?
Like a written type
Yeah,
thing?
like a written thing. So
Okay.
when they sign in, they have a form they sign in. We're working on, making it streamlined a little bit better so they don't have to always sign in and answer the same questions over
Yeah.
and over again. But for now, they answer at least, household size, children under the age of 18, children 18 and 60, and then 65 and older kind of thing. And we get those demographic numbers. We do sometimes for, Roadrunner Food Bank or other projects that we do for grant writing, we do submit just anecdotal stories like
That
that.
makes sense.
Yeah, but they're all kind of just collected, in our brains or when we talk to students because we all have different experiences with each student depending on the person.
True.
But yes, data-wise though, the New Mexico Basic Needs Consortium, spearheaded by UNM, they started it. Basically, it was like I think they tried to get as many New Mexico community colleges and colleges to participate in this survey. And so they sent out a survey to all those colleges, and they had about 13,500 or so participants answer this survey.
gosh.
And it was about 10,000 or so students who responded. And staff and faculty also responded. They were given the opportunity also. Because again, we acknowledge, yes, we don't all make a lot of money. And it is tough for us as well. And that's something, that we acknowledge and that, at CNM, we're also trying to figure out as well as how do we support staff and faculty. But I think everybody is also trying to do that, not just us. But also about 4,000 staff and faculty answered the questions as well.
Right on.
And so,
From
yes.
27 institutions, if I'm reading the summary right.
Yes, I think you're right. Exactly that many, yes.
Yeah.
And so, again, not every institution, but as many as they could, they were able to access a survey and have that survey sent out. And that was in 2000, I want to say 2022 or something like that. Yeah, the first one. It wasn't super long ago. It may have been 3 or 4 years ago. I may be wrong, but it was really recent for sure that survey went out, the initial survey. And based on that data, they figured out that, around, I'm going to say 50, I'm going to look at my phone real quick.
Yeah.
Around 58% or so were food insecure. 39 identified that they had low food security, basically like the most severe category of food insecurity. 62% were housing insecure, and about 14% were unhoused in the last 12 months or so. And that's real.
That is multidimensional.
That is, and that's again, it's something that I'm grateful for the data because it serves a purpose. But living and seeing and being in the community, I see it all the time. And it's something that I don't have to be reminded of because I see that, and I've talked to students, who are like, I'm a single parent and I'm living in my car and I'm coming to CNM because I know that this education, this certificate, or this whatever it may be is going to help me provide a better life for my child and myself. And so many students that I know that utilize food pantry, we talk about, I'm in transitional housing right now, or I'm kind of just don't even know where I'm going to go today, but
precariously housed.
Exactly, yeah. Or students who are like, well, I want to take all this food, but I can only take so much because I have to take the bus home, and I can only take what I can carry. So it's real, it's real things that are happening for student communities, and again, everybody, but we know that for our student communities, at least our population that we serve.
Well, I want to encourage people to go to the website to get that data because there's a really beautiful visual description of the summary and then breaking it down into the issues.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'll put a link in there, but it's basicneeds.unm.edu.
Yes.
And the brief description of that is, if I get this right, I'm sure it's relatively up to date. Our vision is for all college students, faculty, and staff in New Mexico to have basic needs security through a combination of evidence-based interventions, research, and data collection. So as you said, there's a specific purpose and a long-term vision for use of it.
Yeah, exactly. And I did see it again. It was in the spring of 2022 that the first iteration went out. And we used that data. We were just this last session at the Roundhouse advocating for more money for basic needs programs. I went up there as well with the consortium to just have a presence there on Higher Education Day.
Good point.
To talk about, hey, we would like not just again CNM, but every college, every community college and higher education institution in New Mexico to have access to more funding to provide basic needs items for students, food pantries or whatever it is that we need.
It's just bringing to mind there's the 100% Bernalillo initiative, and one of their tenets is food insecurity, and they have people working around those ideas, and that's a statewide effort, even though it says 100% Bernalillo. We'll come back to that on a separate note.
Yeah.
But we need to wrap up, and I want to first give you such incredible kudos for being a powerful presence in this space. Being a powerful presence of safety and access for the people that are sort of revolving around you, whatever their needs may be. And give you a last little bit of something to, provide a space for you to say how you want to leave this, because there's so much I could talk to you about. I want to know what you're doing as an artist with Harwood. I want to know more about your life in Albuquerque in general, but I'm going to leave it to you to leave us with your last thoughts.
Oh yeah, thank you. Um, yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I just really am grateful. Like I'm really grateful for the work I get to do.
Yeah.
I know we're talking about myself personally, but
Yeah.
I just want to say that again because, you know, again, I don't make a lot of money, and I know there's a lot of us live paycheck to paycheck,
Right.
and we're also a few paychecks away from being unhoused
Yep.
or being really in a terrible situation. So, I live that as well, and I see it, and so I'm really grateful that I get to be in a position where I can, with the backing of the community college, be able to provide resources to students. So, really, I wake up every day like really grateful that I get to do what I do, and I get to provide for students and help them succeed in the ways they want to. But on my own personal notes, yes, I do have an upcoming art show, which is my first show I've ever done. I've been an artist probably all my life. Probably I like to play music. I've played piano for many years. I paint. I've done intaglio printmaking. I've
Cool.
done some kind of. I like to knit. I knit my son a scarf every year
Right
because it grows with him because he grows, and so it has to grow, make it be longer. But yeah, I have a show coming up at the Harwood Art Center. It's the Surface Emerging Artist Program. And so basically it's, for any artist who identifies as emerging. And so, that could look like anything. It could be like myself. I'm a 40-year-old person who, I've created art. I kind of had art in other spaces, or actually never really in a formal space, but I've made art and I've never displayed it anywhere.
Yeah.
And so I identify as a emerging artist because I've never been able to really put my work out there. And so I was selected, and that show happens the opening is June 21st. I think the show goes up June 12th, but the actual reception is the 21st at the Harwood Art Center.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm excited about that. Really excited about educational psychology. Like I said, Montessori programs, that really, is a principle that guides me still, even though I don't teach any longer. I think it's always, we're always lifelong learners, I think, and I want to be a lifelong learner, and I value education. And I understand that that's not always the only way to succeed in life, for sure, but
like higher education.
Yeah, higher
Right,
education,
right.
exactly. But I think we always need to be growing and always learning, because that's just how we grow, I think. And having that inquisitiveness and that curiosity is really important, and so I value that a lot. So yeah, I'm excited about starting that master's program in the fall. And just kind of really excited about summertime happening and getting ready for summer and going on more hikes and being out in community again, in community spaces. I really, again, appreciate connecting as much as I can to community resources here in town, and just being here and being able to be in Albuquerque. It is a really unique place, and I meet so many people who come here, and again, I know we always kind of say this in a joking way, and it's a line of entrapment, but it's and to me it's a really beautiful thing to be trapped here. I think I'd rather be trapped here than, I don't know, I love Houston and Texas, but I mean, Texas not so much. Houston I love, but I think I'd rather be trapped here than Houston. But I don't even feel trapped. I feel like I have space here, and I have a community here, and I have growth here. So I really do love being here and helping the communities here in Albuquerque.
Yeah, well, it sounds like 16 years is going to grow into something a little bit longer, and we're very happy about that.
Yeah, I think so. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm excited about it too.
Cool. And thanks also for just being a really incredible example for your son.
Thanks.
And for being accessible to the community too. So I would encourage people to reach out to you if they want to support your work or any of the boards that you're on, and just be in touch, because I feel like you might be an incredible touch point for the city as a whole.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Please reach out to me with anything. I'm always happy to talk to people. And I think my son says that. He's like, oh, you say hi to everybody and you want to stop and talk to everybody. And he's like, I tell him, let's go. And he's like, but you're going to stop and talk to 5 people before we leave. And I'm like, I probably will. You're right.
I love it. He might be like that later too.
He might be.
Yeah. All right. Well, Benjamin, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate being on here. Thanks for having me.
You bet. And we hope everybody else comes back for another ABQ Exits.
Yes.